Kenya Moore. The name is familiar to millions. Reality television star, entrepreneur, author, and business owner. Over the years, she has built a public image as a strong, driven woman with a flair for business and beauty. But recently, Moore has found herself at the center of a controversy that involves her hair spa business and a legal dispute over rent payments that has captivated fans, critics, and business observers alike. This story is not just about money or contracts. It is about reputation, public perception, how modern celebrities manage businesses, and how disputes can play out in the court of public opinion long before resolution in a court of law. By the time we are finished here, you will have a clear understanding of what is alleged, what is proven, what Kenya Moore is saying, and why this whole situation has become so complicated. Who is Kenya Moore? Before diving into the controversy, it helps to understand who Kenya Moore is and why this issue is drawing so much attention. Kenya Moore first rose to fame on reality television, most notably on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, where her confident personality and dramatic flair made her a standout cast member. Off-screen, she has pursued numerous entrepreneurial ventures, including beauty lines, fitness products, motivational speaking, and a hair spa. Moore has long positioned herself as a woman of substance and business acumen, someone who turned her public presence into a platform for building brands. That reputation is now part of the backdrop for the current controversy. When allegations involve a public figure, audiences are naturally curious. But curiosity does not replace facts, and it is important to separate speculation from what is established. The allegations. Unpaid rent. At the heart of the controversy is an allegation made by the landlord of the commercial property where Kenya Moore Hair Spa operates. The claim is straightforward: the spa failed to pay rent and utility bills over a period of time, leading to tens of thousands of dollars in unpaid debt. For any business, missed rent is a serious issue. Commercial landlords depend on steady payments to cover mortgages, maintenance, taxes, and insurance. When a tenant falls behind, landlords have legal remedies, and in this case, the landlord pursued them. The landlord reportedly took the matter to a civil court and obtained a judgment that ordered Kenya Moore's company to pay nearly $88,000 in back rent and utility charges. The court also ordered the business to continue paying monthly rent, reported to be over $5,000, in order to remain on the property. These are not minor sums. Whether for a small startup or a celebrity-headed company, amounts like this are enough to attract attention. Court actions and legal steps. This part of the story is crucial because it is factual and based on public records. The landlord did not remain silent. They pursued legal action. Once the landlord obtained a judgment from a judge, the next step was to enforce it. When ordered payments went unmet by specified deadlines, the landlord asked the court for legal rights to take possession of the property, what is commonly referred to as eviction proceedings. It is important to note that asking a court to enforce a judgment or initiate eviction is a normal legal process when a landlord believes a tenant has failed to satisfy a court order. This does not automatically mean wrongdoing. It means one party believes another has not upheld their end of a legal obligation. From a purely legal perspective, these filings and motions are part of an ongoing civil case. Cases like this frequently involve counterclaims, defenses, negotiations, and sometimes settlements outside of court. Nothing is final until there is a judgment that cannot be appealed or negotiated. Kenya Moore's response. Kenya Moore and her representatives did not simply ignore the allegations. They responded publicly and, according to reports, legally as well. Moore has denied the notion that she is simply avoiding or dodging rent. Her rebuttals offer a different perspective. Investment in the space. Moore has stated that she personally invested a significant amount of money, reportedly more than $300,000, into building out the space before opening the salon. That means she did not just lease it. She allegedly spent her own funds to create the interior, fixtures, plumbing, and everything required to make the space functional as a beauty salon. Dispute over tenant improvement allowance. According to Moore's statements and filings, there was supposed to be an agreed-upon tenant improvement allowance. That is a contractual item, where a landlord agrees to provide a certain amount of money or reimbursement for improvements the tenant makes to the space. Moore's side of the story is that the landlord failed to honor that allowance, effectively leaving her with a large unreimbursed expense. If accurate, this would shift the financial context of the situation from unilateral non-payment of rent to a contractual disagreement over obligations. Withholding rent while legal dispute is ongoing. Moore has argued that her company withheld rental payments because of this dispute. In some commercial lease arrangements, tenants may withhold rent if the landlord has violated a material term of the lease, but this is usually something courts handle with scrutiny. It is not as simple as stopping payments. It must be backed by legal argument and evidence. Public statements. Moore has also taken to social media and other platforms to defend herself, presenting her perspective and encouraging her audience to understand that there is more to the story. She has implied that the narrative of unpaid rent is incomplete without context about the financial disagreements at play. Social media, fans, and public perception. This dispute did not happen in a vacuum. Once the landlord's claim and court actions became public, and once Moore responded, social media lit up. Fans on one side voiced concern that Moore, as a celebrity entrepreneur, should understand and fulfill financial obligations. Others argued that she is being unfairly portrayed, and that the landlord might be in the wrong. Comment threads on platforms like Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok have been filled with opinions, memes, and arguments, as is often the case when a well-known figure is involved in a legal dispute. The key point here is that public opinion does not determine legal truth. Viral posts and trending tweets are not evidence in court. They are expressions of perception, powerful, but not authoritative. Can you prove she is not dodging rent? This is the central question, and the answer is both simple and nuanced. You cannot definitively prove it yet, because this is an ongoing legal dispute. There is no final judicial conclusion that definitively proves either that Moore intentionally failed to pay rent, or that the landlord breached its contract in a way that justified withholding payments. There is no settlement announcement, agreed upon resolution, or final court order settling all claims, at least not as of the latest public information. Until that happens, you cannot conclusively prove any definitive legal truth on either side. You can point to evidence and statements. You can point to the following to support the argument that Moore is not simply dodging rent. She has publicly disputed the allegations and provided her version of contractual disagreements. She claims to have invested heavily in improvements to the property. There is evidence of counterclaims or legal filings disputing the landlord's position. Social media statements from Moore include explanations rather than silence or avoidance. Intent matters in perception. Dodging rent implies malicious intent, that someone is intentionally refusing to pay what they owe without cause. The presence of a legal counterargument complicates that assumption. A dispute over contractual terms, reimbursements, and lease obligations indicates a conflict, not necessarily wrongdoing. Why this matters beyond the headlines. This situation is more than celebrity gossip. It highlights issues that many business owners, large and small, can face. Contracts and interpretation. Leases are legal documents. Disputes often arise over interpretation, especially when large sums are involved. Even experienced business people can end up in litigation over terms they thought were clear. Investments versus obligations. When a business owner invests personal money into a leased space, the financial balance sheet becomes more complex. That investment may affect expectations on both sides. Public figures and business transparency. For someone in the public eye, business disputes are amplified. A private company with financial disagreements might quietly settle behind closed doors. When a celebrity is involved, every allegation becomes public comment fodder. Media nuance. The way news is reported, sometimes simplified into headlines, can strip away context. Fans and followers see unpaid rent without seeing contract dispute or investment and allowances unless they dig deeper. Where the case stands now. As of the latest available information, there is a legal judgment ordering a payment of back rent. There is evidence the landlord is seeking enforcement of that judgment. Moore's company has publicly contested these claims and insists there are contractual reasons for the dispute. No final settlement or adjudication has resolved all claims between the parties. This is an ongoing dispute with arguments from both sides. The full truth of what happened and why will likely only emerge through legal resolution or settlement. What happens next? Possible outcomes include out-of-court settlement. The two parties could reach a negotiated agreement that resolves rent, reimbursements, and lease terms without further litigation. Court ruling. A judge could ultimately rule on all claims, determining who is responsible for what. Appeal. If either side disagrees with a ruling, the case could move to an appeals court. None of these has occurred yet, so the final answer remains open. Conclusion. Can you prove Moore is not dodging rent? Not yet. But you can show that she has publicly disputed the allegations, provided explanations of contractual disagreements, and presented her own narrative supported by legal filings. This is not a simple matter of paid versus unpaid. It is a complex business dispute involving contracts, investments, legal interpretations, and public perception. For now, the truth lies in the legal process, not in headlines. Until that process concludes, it is fair and responsible to consider both sides of the story. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.